you know, I've told on some people, people consider me to be a street nigga, right? I put on my IG meme I found saying that a street nigga is a myth. What the deal? Peace to the gods, peace to the earth, peace to all the righteous human beings on the planet Earth. This your man King Louis Allah coming to y'all on this. I don't even know the date. I think it's the Wisdom Knowledge Day of February. Wisdom and knowledge, right? So I'm gonna strive to kick some wisdom and some knowledge. I'm gonna talk about some things about hip hop and its culture, right? To all the people in Houston, keep your head up. Man, the United States ought to come up for winter states to, come up with a salt sand gravel mix to help with travel during bad weather. They rarely see snow. I know Texas snowstorms ain't no joke. I was in one, and oh my God, I was in one back in the day, 2007. Hey, oh my God, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Oklahoma was all fucked up. So, but we get it all the time in the D, and so just you gotta stay up. You know what I'm saying? What I want to talk about? Well, yeah, it's people. The hot trending topic is snitching, right? And I've told on some people. People consider me to be a street nigga, right? I put on my IG meme I found saying that a street nigga is a misinformed nigga, right? And so, I don't like the term street nigga. I think, we shouldn't let other people define us, especially me. I could be a college nigga or a 5%er. I'm a well-rounded, universal person, human being, right? And so a person that gets his or her money from the street, why do we call people that make their money independently a street person? That's kind of disrespectful. That person is an independent entrepreneur that can generate revenue from the blacktop, from the street top, from the dirt, from the grass. That's a woman that's started her own hair salon from her parents' house or from her house and then went to her own salon. People call her a street person. That's ridiculous. Somebody that's, hustling in the street, selling, merchandise they might come across for low and then sell it for high. Just because you independent and know how to make money independently don't make you a street person. If you're a drug dealer, you're a drug dealer. If you're a hustler, you're a hustler. So, that street person definition terminology is not right. That's someone that's ignorant to the ways of the world. See, we not wilderness, martial law, wild, wild west civilization. And for people that like to use that term street person, and so they saying, so it's a code that come with street person. Bear with me. You know, it's it's a code that so-called street people supposed to use, and that's the no snitching rule, right? You're not supposed to tell on nothing, and or you supposed to handle it yourself. That's ridiculous. If you are a street person, you supposed to know all the rules of the street. And if you was a street person, you would know the police are in the street. People that talk that shit act like the police don't exist. See, they act like the police don't exist. But the police exist, and they patrol the street. They walk the street looking for so-called people handling their street business. So it's that kind of behavior and mind frame only leads you to jail. And what's so good about going to jail? See what I'm saying? Now, on one hand, there ain't, the toughest man and woman don't want to be in jail. And, there ain't nothing honorable about going to jail. There is nothing honorable about snitching, but there is nothing honorable about going to jail. So, the police are in the street. And so, man, I think that's just, you need to know the law of the land, and, stop referring to people as street people, street niggas, or street girl, because, they get their money from the street, not in traditional ways where you get a franchise or, work for somebody or, so, but, this been the latest trending topic in hip hop, and so they trying to make snitching cool. They trying to make snitching snitching a part of today's culture, today's hip hop culture. They trying to make it cool. Tekashi 6ix9ine got a Showtime TV show coming out, and they celebrating him snitching. They gonna talk about it. That's wrong, man. So now it is that the OG that take the youngins up under their wing got to show them legitimate ways to make money, and can't involve somebody looking up to you trying to learn some things that can lead them into jail where they will have to snitch, because Tekashi made it cool to be a snitch, and that's due to his record company giving him advancing him millions, and they have to recoup some of that cost, some of that money. So they making him that's it's okay to do that. It is never okay to enter in something illegal with other people, get caught, and then tell on the people you entered that illegal business with. That is snitching. You should never do that. And so, you should never do that. And so, that's what they saying he did, Now, some of his telling, I understand. They tried to, leave the boy face down. You no longer loyal to people that you in it with that turn on you before the police come. You no longer loyal. And the things they done, that he say they done to him, have anybody calling the police. But, people gonna argue, if he was into putting hits on people, why didn't put somebody on the people that done him that way? Whatever. That ain't none of my business. I'm just saying, snitching is when you tell on people, you down with, your comrades. When you tell on them people, when all y'all get caught or you get caught, to save yourself, you become that definition of a snitch, right? When you tell on somebody who you in it with to save yourself, you become a snitch. I told on people because I was a victim of some people that I knew. Just because I knew them don't make me no snitch. Niggas cross me, and the first thing to do is inform the law. See, you could still put somebody in the ground if they feel a certain way about you telling, because they belief system and moral ideology is off, is unbalanced, right? So they think that, you supposed to take being a victim or take the law in your hands. Taking the law in your hands will most definitely get you incarcerated or killed, right? But, you got self-defense laws if they get mad and come at you. I mean, if you bout it, right? And you're not scared to defend yourself, your family, your property, then, and somebody cross you, what's the problem of telling the police? See, telling the police in advance or first, the first step, and then you may have to defend yourself and get to kill the people that done you wrong anyway. That's my reasoning. You see what I'm saying? But I'm not down. And then some people might try to, and so the dudes that crossed me that made me to the police tried to put me with them. They're going to rob me, then try to put me with them. That's ridiculous. That's dumb. So, I'm dealing with a lower level, lower class human being where the smart thing to do is bring in law enforcement because they dumb. They real dumb. Why go sit in a cell? You got to have vision. You know what I'm saying? If you send yourself, killing somebody, going to jail, you got to think, is their life worth it? Right? Because people talking about take the law in your own hands. Is their life worth your freedom over some material things, possessions? Is their life worth over material possessions that someday can be replaced? So, but, like I had to tell some rappers, I don't get royalties of publishing. I can't, I can't afford to lose guns and leathers and electronics and money because I don't get royalties in publishing. I work for mine, and I can't afford to lose $100,000 chain, a $50,000 watch. Nothing I didn't pay for, I can't, So, but I wasn't saying nothing. I was rolling past that. And that didn't make the haters happy. And they started talking shit. Now, okay, so you're going to cop to that. So I told the same thing they said to me to the police. So, I don't feel bad. I ain't down with them. I'm not down with being robbed, and I'm not down with home invasion or auto theft. That don't put money in my pocket. That don't put money in their pocket. So, yeah, man. But, you know, somebody wanted me to, you know, talk about pussy comb some more. And, you know, I don't like talking about people, period. You know, I'd rather be striving to enlighten about knowledge of self and how that can benefit your life, you know, growth and development of yourself, right? And my experiences in growth and development. But he was one of hip hop's first snitches, right? Pussy Combs. And people don't know this, and people overlook this. And it you know, it ain't funny. I do believe he was hip hop's, you know, his so-called hip hop community first snitch. You know, I can't think of nobody snitching before him. Maybe one other dude, but I don't know that to be true. But it's the nightclub shooting. And when, you know, he was dating J-Lo, y'all had to look this up. You know, he was dating J-Lo. Power. How can you express your culture without any power? How can you teach equality without power when someone that with less knowledge is in a better financial situation than you? So that's why it pours out. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, and so number 8, you know, you can't build without money. You can't build without knowledge, wisdom, understanding, power, equality, and money. You can't build. You know, you can't live the 12 jewels, food, clothing, shelter, without money. So money, and I got a video on here where I talk about how important money is. Money is just as important as having air, having clean air and oxygen. More important than water, because if you don't have money, you won't be able to have access to air, clean air and clean water without money. And by air is, you know, you'll be trespassing if you are homeless. And so you will, you know, won't be rightfully breathing your own air without having a place that you bought or built to have air and water. So money is most important. So practicing to be poor and teaching to be poor, to be knowledge and to be God is somewhat hypocritical in my opinion. So that's why I done away with poor. And you know we should be pure, you know, unhindered by alcoholism and tobacco addiction and other addictions, food addictions. You know, we should be pure. You know, pure when we set out to teach the babies. You should be pure. To teach the babies, you should be pure. You know, you shouldn't be you know, addicted to things. So, yeah, so, you know, that's why, you know, poor is out. You know, righteous people, you know, don't have, you know, these addictions. And so, you know, that's going to bring me to my next topic that's important, man. It's about, you know, you know, having money and success. and people giving thanks to